Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who's going to be reviewing an album by the artist formerly known as Twigs. It's FKA Twigs Caprisongs, and listen, I understand this is not an album, it's a mixtape. I don't quite know what to do with that. I never know what to do with that, especially when it's as long as an album and it's all very good and it's very well polished. But still, I understand. I missed her LP from 3 years ago, Magdalena. I didn't review it. I listened to it. I thought, I have nothing to say. That was a mistake. Listening to this wonderful mixtape, listening to her style, listening to her production, listening to everything that she says and the way that she says it, I understand that I missed something. So here I am, once again, as I often am, late to the party, discussing with you a project that everybody in the comments is going to be telling me, oh, bruh, you don't even understand how much better the last album was. You've got to review that. But listen, I can enjoy Dawn as much as you enjoyed After Hours. And I might end up enjoying Caprisongs as much as you enjoy Magdalena. Speaking of late to the party, the album that this reminds me most of might surprise you, might not. This was an album that I reviewed at the end of December because I missed it when it came out, the Porter Robinson album. Now I understand, different genders, countries, races, okay? There's a lot of differences there. But so much of what's great about this pop, hyper pop, what is pop is everywhere, pop is nowhere moment is encapsulated in both of these albums. They both have a way of taking their natural human voice, their excellent human singing voice, and mixing it with cybernetics, mixing it with vocoders or auto-tuners or pitch downers or all kinds of tools to make the human voice somehow more expressive, while simultaneously taking away its autonomy and marrying it with machines. This is where we've been headed. It's very clear. We hear it all the time in artists like 100 gecs. But what's fascinating is when instead of it being emphasized the fractured, broken down nature of singing, instead when it's emphasized the human nature that is just accentuated by that. It's almost like distortion pedals or something and how they work in guitars. Another way that it reminds me of Porter Robinson is in the thematics. This is a nurturing album. It's an album which is just about feel better about yourself. Would you, sister? You've had a rough time. Men are difficult. These relationships you've had aren't very good. You deserve better. Love yourself. Love yourself. Love yourself. And it's 2022, and Professor Sky tells you, love yourself. Feel free to put that in the comments if you want. Just to say love yourself, we need to hear it more. We need much more nurturing than we're getting. And so why not? I would say in Porter Robinson, the nurturing often comes from nature, whereas in FKA Twigs, the nurturing comes from friends and astrology, which we'll get into later. This is, I would say, Caprisongs is much more pop than it is hyper. It really does feel just like a very solid, well-made pop album. Not really a mixtape again. A lot of modular production, which is nice, like kind of segments, like different parts, different songs. It's sort of maximally produced, especially with the way that the voice is manipulated and the way that the rhythms come in and often change. It's mostly produced by someone named El Guichno, who apparently does all the work with Rosalia, who I don't know much about, but I know a little bit with their song with Billie Eilish, and Mike Dean. And Mike Dean is all over the place on this album. Mike Dean is mixing. He produces one of the songs. If you don't know Mike Dean, he is the other half of Kanye West at this point. He's his primary collaborator for the past decade. So that's pretty important. I do hear a lot of those innovations that Kanye and Mike Dean helped to make. So it's kind of a funny intro for me to this. When she released Magdalena, and even though I didn't listen to it, I recognized that it was on everyone's top 10 lists as this great artwork, this great piece, and here I am with this mixtape. And I almost reviewed it 2 hours ago. I need to talk about my process as a reviewer. So I listen to an album 2 or 3 times. I usually go to the gym and listen to it while I lift weights, listen to it while I do elliptical. But there's an extra test that I like to give my albums, and that's what I call the Sunday morning pancake test. So every Sunday morning, I make buttermilk blueberry pancakes for my kids. It's quite nice. They wake up, come downstairs. We listen to Sunday Morning by Velvet Underground. But while I'm cooking, I listen to music. And how I feel about an album can often be determined in that final listen. I just cleaned up. Actually, my wife and kids cleaned up because I cooked. Just cleaned up after breakfast. They're upstairs doing homework. And I was able to really sit with the album on in the background, not super carefully, like just having it in my life, having it in my living room. And it totally passed that test. Songs which I did not like as much, especially the songs that had more of that dance hall rhythm, I ended up loving having on in the background, having on while I was cooking. I really found this is a great album to live with, not just to focus on, but also to live with. So congratulations, FKA Twigs. Also, feel free to tell me in the comments, what's up with her name? Like, is that just a joke? That she's formerly known as Twigs and that's her whole name? Like, was she just Twigs? And why is she FKA Twigs now? Is that just funny? Is this like some meta-referential thing? I don't know. So let me take you through the album. I like to give you a homework, a song that gives an example of what the album is like. And interestingly enough, fortunately enough, the first song is probably my favorite song on the album, and the song which I think best exemplifies what makes it good, Ride the Dragon. I'll include a link to it up there. First of all, I don't think this is about heroin. The term Ride the Dragon is about like heroin, but I don't think that's what this is about. I hope it's not. Please feel free to correct me in the comments. But it opens up with the sound of a tape being pressed. And the idea of this not just being a mixtape in the sense of it being like a rap mixtape where it's not quite finished, it's a little bit not as grand in scope as an LP, but a mixtape is actually a gift. And I assume that FKA Twigs is too young to have actually given mixtapes, to her friends or to her lovers. But this is definitely a part of American culture, which is still referenced quite a bit. World culture, not American culture, world culture. And I made many mixtapes in my day. So I like this idea of kind of announcing right off the bat that she's saying, hey, I made you this mixtape. It has a double meaning in that way. And then just it starts off with this super weird slow down voice behind and super high up singing, super modular. So many different parts to this song, these cool kind of flute songs. And this is where something popped into, where I started to understand, like I every once in a while I have a realization where I go, oh, that's where that's from. It's Timbaland and Missy Elliott. This is the logical result of their work 20 years ago, taking pop, taking hip-hop, taking R&B, and making it weird and technological while also being soulful and personal. Their work together as singer and producer, I think, is the true grandfather and grandmother of this whole movement. Maybe that's already been said 1,000 times. Maybe I'm saying a truism that everybody knows. Or maybe I'm making an interesting point. But especially just when those flute sounds come in, it's like, is this Timbaland? You really do get that feeling. It kind of switches a couple bars through, becomes super catchy. She starts singing, if you want to kiss me, if you really want to kiss me, kiss me. And this is, it's very subjective, but a lot of albums are trying to be sexy, but just come across as kind of sexual without being sexy. There's something about this album which the sexuality feels real. I think that's the primary difference, that things that are sexual but not sexy is like someone's just kind of going through the numbers and they know if they say something, it will sound sexy. There's a sort of sincerity to the lust in this album, which I find charming and interesting. Very interesting. There's sort of very ethereal sounds in the second verse, like so much going on here. I mean, really, I could spend another 4 or 5 minutes breaking down like every minute and a half of the song because there's so many different things going on here in the production that's just spectacular. Most of the song is about her power in the streets, her power in the sheets. Very sexy, very odd, very cool all the way through. So that's a good example, introduction to her style, the way that her voice is used, produced, and just this likable person who's talking to you about her life and showing herself some self-love. Love yourself. Next song is called Honda, with an appearance by Pas Salieu. I'm only going to pronounce that in a French way. Has kind of a reggae sound in the beginning. This guy who starts off, when he sings, he's fine. But he does this opening that's just filled with all these cliches. Like people, I'm one of a kind, or people like me are one of a kind. Hey, Pas Salieu, you can't be a part of a group that's one of a kind. Either you're one of a kind or you're not. And he talks about like, if life gives you lemons, then make an extract. And then he says only the strong survive, which is just one of the cheesiest things. There's a baseball player on the Arizona Diamondbacks who had only the strong survive tattooed on his arm. It's one of the goofiest things. It's just a goofy thing to say. But it doesn't really matter because it's very cool the way the song opens. These kind of monastic moans. All the way throughout this album, it feels almost medieval at times, like she's really going, or they're really going for, something that feels like it could be in the Middle Ages. And I really like the verse in the end by Passelia. Even though I didn't like his intro, I like the way he sounds, the way the voices interact. It's kind of a lyrically empty song about, smoking dope and driving around and being unique. Meta Angel is the next song, and really just every song here so far has just been really up, really awesome. This is all about finding quiet. This is the first time we have one of these voices of these very supportive male figures who just appear in these albums saying very inspirational things. This is the year of growth and being free. That's as good as I get for a British accent. There is an element that I do worry, though, where I'm not, I don't know anything about FKA Twigs. I don't know if she's like a superstar or just a star, but there is a degree to which I do worry for her personally, because if you have a lot of people behind you saying how great you are, it might be hard to actually be checked, like have a realistic relationship towards yourself when you're always being built up. But I don't know. It's a beautiful, mournful song about like looking for yourself. There's this kind of like, the main melody of the song is carried through with this melodic tone of a voice descending. Lyrically, it's one of the more interesting songs on the album. It kind of kicks in this cool sort of like auto-tune for emotion. Kind of sort of like Southern rap, actually. It reminds me a little bit of, almost even a Playboi Carti. Like the way the auto-tune's like, blah, 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 and kind of cracks, which is really nice because, again, she has such a nice voice. She doesn't need the auto-tune. She's using it for the emotional strength. Very, very well layered, going on and on about having the ego in the fire. That's another thing. If people ever talk to you about how much they've put away their ego, that's a good sign that they have not put away their ego. But she's young. Tears in the Club. Okay, so last month I reviewed the Arca quadrilogy of albums. Last week I reviewed The Weeknd. Here they are all together on just an amazing song. It's a breakup song. It's kind of psycho pop. Arca is just, she has a couple songs on this album, and this is definitely the better one. Again, it's sort of sexy, sort of mournful. I want to get you out of my thighs, out of my mind. A breakup song, but I love the idea of Tears in the Club. Any song, whether it's How Soon Is Now by the Smiths or Alors on Danse by Stromae, songs about how sad clubs can be always make me happy, especially when it's sad on a personal level. Like she's just there and she's trying to get out of her head, she's trying to get out of her mind, she's trying to reclaim her body, but of course she can't reclaim her body because somebody broke up with her. And I don't even know, is she famous enough where she has like a famous ex? Was she like dating like David Beckham or some other British person? Prince Harry? Prince William? Which was the one that should be in jail? Doesn't matter. So this very, at times she reminds me a little bit of Ariana Grande in the way she sings this song, but not quite as agitating, although I do like Ariana Grande. A cool kind of post-chorus hook that's kind of childish and weird. The Weeknd comes in, and hey, if you need somebody to express sadness and happiness at the same time and feeling as though they're doing the wrong thing in their life, that's where you want The Weeknd. It does seem like he just can't miss. It just seems like he can't miss. He's so good on this. All about getting yourself up after a breakup. A perfect pop song. I mean, this, in a perfect world, whatever song is going to be, the song of the winter. In a perfect world, it would be this. Like, this would be the song that you just hear all the time. And you just, this is what you hear in the grocery store because it's that good. Oh My Love is the next song. I like how it opens up with her discussing how she went out with a guy and met his family, and then he's like, oh, we're not actually together. It feels very relatable. It feels like an experience a lot of people have had, especially a lot of women. It is sort of the first miss on the album. This is the best example of a thing that did best on the pancake test. When I was making pancakes this morning, I enjoyed it a lot more. I do sort of like the Everybody Knows I Want Your Love at the end, but it's like we're just not. It's got this sort of like slow, languid trap beat, kind of way in the back. It's okay, but it doesn't quite live up to the rest of the first half of the album. I do like at the end more empowering themes. Boys don't recognize the beauty in them, the worth of themselves. How can they recognize the worth in you? Which I like quite a bit. So you're gonna hear Toby barking upstairs. It could be that there was a leaf outside that he didn't like. Toby is such a crazy dog. He will bark at airplanes. I'm not joking. He will see an airplane up in the sky and be like, "Hey." Anyways, we'll see if Toby causes more trouble. Toby, you causing trouble over there? Next song is called Pomp Le Mousse, which is... I'm just going to make some space on the couch for him. Pomp Le Mousse, which is, of course, the French word for grapefruit. I have a fond memory associated with this word. I had a friend, first time I ever went to Quebec, that was the only word of French that he knew. He would just say Pomp Le Mousse over and over again. This is apparently in reference to the LaCroix seltzer can. This, I would say, is sort of another miss. I mean, this album is not an album of highs and lows. It's sort of an album of like highs and mids. So it's okay. This is kind of one of those mids. This is kind of a little too agitating, a little too chopped up. Next song is an interlude with basically nothing there. Then Light Beamers. I guess really this middle section is a problem because I'd call this another mid. Kind of a childish beat. Nice bass work here. I like the theme of, don't give yourself away. Again, when we think about the themes of this album, so much of it is about this idea of not just self-empowerment, but just like self-worth and understanding who you are and that you're not as bad as you feel after a breakup. So in that way, it's good. It's kind of conversational too, which is different than the rest of the album. Next song is Poppy Bones. The album's back. Oh my God, do I love this song. This song, like I wanted to put down the frying pan, put down the pancakes, and just jam out this time. I mean, it's got a great dance hall beat. It has a toaster, the dance hall general of the UK. I don't know who it is, but he's announcing things. They then say there's nothing sexier than when a woman dances like she doesn't care. That's true of men as well. That's part of this other theme of the album, the sexiness of letting go. Not just the sexiness, but like the value of not watching yourself, of not being restrained, of not being inhibited. In that way, I really believe in this album a lot, because like when people dance, like they really don't care. Like it's always good. It's always meaningful, and I suppose sexy, But when do you ever see people actually dance like they don't care? Like almost never. But it's great. It's with Shy Girl, who I appreciate a lot as well. I reviewed her album last year. Cool kind of drum sample that comes in. Just a great, that dance hall. Doom, doom, ga, doom, doom, ga. It's just a beat I could, like when I think about like beats that I could listen to. I could listen to James Brown's Funky Drummer all day, and I could listen to a dance hall drum beat all day. Shy Girl is just really nice here too. Again, sort of a... intentionally sexy song, switch it up but don't stop. It's almost like a Barry White song that seems to be written while having sex. One production detail that I particularly love, and there's a lot of production details on this album that I can't go into because I don't want this video to be an hour long, but they use in the beginning that siren. The siren. But then they put it into the keyboard and use it to make a different melody. Really nice. So much development in the beat of this song. Next song is called Which Way, exclusively by Mike Dean. There's a little bit of self-parody here where she says, this is music that's perfect to think to, but I don't have many thoughts. What I like about this is it's another kind of throwback to old-sounding reggae, but it's more like early 80s style, like this cool sub-bass, kind of Casio drums, this kind of haunting descending keyboard, and it reminds me of like some of that like very early dance hall sort of in the early 80s before it really became too formalized and this very simple instrumentation. It's almost a ditty. Like it doesn't even really have a full song, but it's just very charming, very nice. I mean, this made me, like when I heard this song, it made me feel close to FKA Twigs. And that's a thing that pop artists can do better than other artists, is make you feel close to them. And just this song, I had a good job and I left because it didn't feel right. And then she just goes right, left, And listen, I'm a fancy man, you know. I have a doctorate. I do this channel. So if someone is saying right, left, and the producer pans it from right to left, I'm supposed to be smarter than that. I'm not supposed to think, oh, that's fun, I like that. But guess what? That's fun. I like that. It's awesome. The whole song is just really nice. And again, it's about knowing your worth. That really is the big theme of the album, knowing your worth, this time in the context of a job. And then at the end, she said she always wanted to be a rock star girlfriend, but now she is a rock star girlfriend. I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. So she wanted to be the girlfriend of a rock star. Now she is the girlfriend that is a rock star. It's nice. I mean, that's agency, right? Whenever we talk about what is agency, she's taking herself from a object of a sentence and becoming the subject of the sentence, which is great. That's true empowerment. That's not just like, I am strong. It's like, I used to settle for something less, and now I realize I can be more. Jealousy is the next song. Another great dancehall bump song. I really like Rema, R-E-M-A. I don't know, Rema. Who guests on here, cuts up really nicely at the end. Another song which was much better when I was just listening to it in the background and able to kind of dance around the kitchen. Careless, another hit. Just this song. This is definitely, I mean, I suspect I'm going to listen to this album more, and I suspect this is going to be my favorite song on the album eventually. Cool, weird sort of like vocal melody to start where you hear her singing into something that's modulating her voice and you hear the aspiration and that becomes the basis of the melody. And then these like sloppy, weird drums come in, like double voices and odd detuned guitars at points. It's produced by someone named Simon, who also produces Dua Salah, who I reviewed last year. Very good, very similar in this kind of like UK pop, underground, artisanal pop, whatever the hell we're going through here. All this pop music is awesome all of a sudden. It's right there. I like this song for its double entendre. Again, like when I'm talking about an album being sexy and not just sexual, it's saying like you can be careless, which sounds like it's a criticism of a lover, but it's actually saying like you can be careless, like you can be rougher, a little bit more adventurous in bed is what she's actually saying, which is an interesting and provocative theme. I really like her duet, Daniel Caesar. It reminds me sort of like a 90s singer, like a 90s R&B singer. Really, really very, very strong. Just a great song. And I love this ambiguity of the meaning. And again, we're going back to this theme that we've had throughout the entire album. Abandon and lack of inhibitions. The same way that earlier we said that nothing can be sexier when somebody dances without caring about it. Nothing can be sexier than not caring when being physically intimate, as long as it's consensual. Outro has these cool, sweet, arpeggiating keyboards. The next song is called Minds of Men, and I don't know what to think about this song. This was almost my stamp because it's so bizarre. Again, it feels sort of operatic. It feels sort of like a medieval chant, odd voice accents, gentle piano, great production. But I don't know what this song is about. It seems like it's about like the need to support great men and that there's always great women supporting great men. But I think I must be misreading it. So please tell me in the comments, is this like a song about how women should support men? Or is it the opposite of that? Or is it something else more complicated? Because I was expecting, and the first time I listened, I just assumed this must be a song about how women need to not just rely on the minds of men. But it ended up, as I read it, being a little bit backwards. But I'm not saying that with any certainty at all. So you can be mad, but there's no point in being mad because I'm literally telling you, correct me if I'm wrong. What is Minds of Men about? Tell me in the comments. Track Girl, Interlude. Co-written by Warren Ellis of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. How did he end up on here? Is this like a Trent Reznor, Lil Nas X thing? Like, how did Warren Ellis end up on this album, on this one song that's basically a sound collage? Like, they talk about a melody, but the melody never quite arrives. She's talking about the kind of guy she's into. She's talking about how she used to be with an athlete and all this. Again, this theme of not just being limited to the kinds of men that you're with. I'm not a rock star girlfriend. I'm a rock star girlfriend. You know, that's what this is a little bit. You know, I'm not just along with some other guy. I am the star of my own show, but I don't really quite know what it's about. Darjeeling is the next song. The only time the album really sounds like rap is in the chorus on this song, where she just kind of delivers these lines. I'm not a big fan of this song or the guests. I do like, my son listened to it. You know, he was playing Animal Crossing in the other room. Animal Crossing came back. It was like the biggest thing in our lives a year and a half ago, and they just started playing again. My daughter confused Tom Nook and Tim Cook. Very funny. So they're playing Animal Crossing in the other room, and he goes, "Is this emo drill?" Which I think is a good way to put it. You know, it is very emotional, it's very pop, while also having that drill style bass line and drums. Then we have the Christie Interlude with a whole bunch of gobbledygook about astrology. Now listen, I've often sort of said some things against astrology on this channel. I regret that. You know, everybody's looking for some spiritual meaning, and people find it in different places. You know, I have a sort of a weird hodgepodge of Christianity in my mind that I use as a spiritual crutch. Some people use Islam, some people use astrology, some people use Wicca, whatever it is. So I don't really care. I think looking back at it now, the general derision towards astrology is probably a gendered thing, because it tends to be women who are more attracted to astrology. So who am I to crap on an irrational faith system when I wouldn't crap on Kanye's irrational faith system just because it's, you know, older and I understand it better because it's about Jesus and not about what house is the moon in. I mean, really, that's what all faith is. What house is the moon in? So I will say, Caprisongs is a funny thing for her to repeat over and over again. Because if you're like me, you're from America, you're a kid of the 80s, there's a fruit juice, and I use the term juice very liberally, called Capri Sun. They're these nasty fruit juices that come in this pouch. And it's an old thing where it's impossible to get the straw in the pouch if you're a kid, because you don't know not to squeeze. I didn't know not to squeeze. So every time I'd get a Capri Sun, it was just guaranteed a fruit punch everywhere. So every time she said Caprisongs, I would hear Capri Sun, and I thought about this as opposed to being about a Capricorn song. I'd think about it being a song about someone trying to drink their Baja Blast Capri Sun. Kind of funny. Final song is the thank you song with Arca producing here, just Arca by herself. A song about gratitude, kind of a plodding, rhythmic march, very calm, very sweet again, thanking a lover. I want to like this song more than I do, because I like Arca so much, and I now like FKA Twigs. But it's a little bit off the themes, like thanking a lover. Like, this album doesn't really seem to be that direction. Like, it seems that lovers in this album are mainly there for sexual, gratification, not really emotional support. The emotional support is coming from her friendships, the friend who she's making this mix for, us, who she's making this mix for, herself, who she's making this mixtape for. So it does feel like it's going off in a different direction. And the production, I don't think, is up to Arca's usual standard, but maybe it's just that it's simple, and I am not elevated enough just to accept simple production from time to time. I don't know. But this really was a very fun album to listen to. Great to listen to, great to think about. I'll show you the dogs in a second because they're doing well. These are my Patreons, so they give me money, and every dollar they give me, I use to buy music. I do have a full-time job, so I have enough money. But if you'd like to support the channel, get lots of extra content, like behind-the-scenes stuff and all that, I do that. But these people are really into like making sure that I can continue to support artists. So thank you to all those people. And if you want me to hastily draw your name on one of these sheets on a Sunday morning, you can go over to patreon.com/Professor Sky. Oh yeah, and also I got merch. This is my Professor Sky mug. A lot of people like this back there. That's a print from the Kafka Museum, and so I made a mug based on that. I gave it to my dad. I gave my dad a mug. It's all he wanted for Christmas, and he really likes it a lot. Although he says it looks like a shoe, which it does. Unintentional. All right. Well then. Oh yeah, the dogs. Hey boys, thank you for being quiet. Hey Bobo, you want to say hi to my YouTube people? Huh? So this is Toby. He's the skinny one. That's Bo. He's the chonkers. Huh? And Toby's the one who licks all the time, aren't you, Toby? You see? Always licking. All right. Well, until next time, I'm going to be reviewing that Earl Sweatshirt album. I might review that Kanye song, but I don't know because it's like... I don't know if I can emotionally handle it. We'll see. Okay, there's the camera.